Good evening, all of you. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, students. Myself, Iqbal Singh, and my esteemed colleague, Dr. Sushant Verma. We are all here to today discuss the PSIR optional paper, and we are conducting this workshop to help you understand and clarify all your doubts regarding the political science and international relations optional paper. As you're all very well aware, students, as a civil service aspirant going through the civil services preparation journey, one very important choice which all of you have to make is pick up an optional choice and choose an optional paper. And this can be a make or break choice, because if you make the right choice, it can help you succeed in this exam. But if you're stuck with the wrong choice, it can also jeopardize your chances to get selected in the civil service examination. Therefore, we have decided here in the institute to conduct these elaborate workshops with all of you to help you understand the requirements of each and every optional paper, and also help you understand that what this optional paper is all about, what is the syllabus, what are the kind of questions which will be asked, and what should be your preparation strategy, how you should approach the optional paper. And you all also must be having a lot of doubts and queries regarding the optional, that also we would like to address. And you all must be very well aware also that PSIR optional is one of the most popular choices among the students, and it has a very high selection rate as well. So we would like to have a detailed discussion, both of us. We are PSIR faculties in Vajiram and Ravi. So we'll like to have a detailed discussion with you regarding this optional. The entire workshop, students, would be divided into 3 sections. So Sushant sir will first of all start the workshop, and he will discuss with you certain details regarding this optional, and also he would discuss with you the syllabus of PSIR paper 1. Since Sushant sir is a faculty for PSIR paper 1, he would take all your lectures on PSIR paper 1. So he's the best person to discuss the PSIR paper 1 syllabus. Once Sushant sir is able to do that with you, then I would come back again and we will have a discussion on the PSIR paper 2, the syllabus of PSIR paper 2. Since I take all classes on PSIR paper 2, so I will discuss that with you. And also we will discuss the special features of the course, that how do we go about in the course to help you prepare for the exam, so that by the time that you end doing this course, you are already mains ready. How are we going to do that? That's also I will discuss with you. And the third part of the workshop, the third section, we'll open up the floor for Q&A session. Whatever doubts and queries you would all have, we would like to address that. So that's how we planned this workshop for you. So are you all ready for the workshop? Shall we start, all of us? Online students, you also please all switch on your cameras and connect with us, and let's start the discussion. So I would hand over the floor to Sushant sir. He will start the workshop. He'll have a discussion on PSIR paper 1 with you, and I'll see you in next few minutes to discuss PSIR paper 2. Okay, students? Thank you so much. Sushant sir, you please start.
Thank you, Iqbal. Now, good evening, all of you. Myself, Sushant. Now, optional plays a very crucial role in your selection. Okay. And keep in mind that the basic criteria for selecting any option is, first is obviously your interest, because you have to stick with that optional for at least 2 years before your selection. Okay. So an informed choice is going to play a major role in your selection. Okay. Second thing is how to decide which optional is best for you. Okay. Normally, the conventional wisdom says that whichever subject you have graduated from, that should be your first choice. Okay. Nevertheless, as far as we are concerned, if you see the background of the student selecting PSIR optional, okay, as Iqbal sir already pointed out, that this optional is one of the most sought after optional for various reasons that I will dwell upon briefly. So point is that students from diverse background, from science background, from commerce background, from non-humanities, I will say, they also select PSIR optional. And you can see the list of the toppers. Many of them are from non-humanities background. Okay. So one of the reason why students prefer selecting PSIR as the optional is obviously its success rate. Second is the utility of the optional, I will say, in your preparation. And utility can be gauged from the fact that yes, PSIR optional helps you in other 4 papers of GS as well. Okay. And if you go through the previous year's essay questions, I hope you know that essays are in 2 parts, part A and part B. You have to write 2 essays. And when you scan the essays for the past 5 years, you will find at least one essay topic directly comes from the optional. So your background in the optional helps you across the general studies paper. When you go to the interview also, okay, most of the questions are current based, and they are related to the current politics or international relations. Okay, so with a good background in PSIR, you will be able to impress the interviewer with your thorough analysis as well. So this is how PSIR helps you at all the stages of examination, prelims, mains, as well as interview. And PSIR entire syllabus has great overlap with GS syllabus as well. I hope all of you have got the material, single material. Now this material contains some introductory part of the syllabus, as well as it also contains the why PSIR optional will help you ace this examination in a better manner. So as I said, there is a great convergence between PSIR optional, okay, and if you see from page number 2 onwards, I have also detailed how the convergence is there in GS as well as PSIR optional. Okay, so if you see the very first topic of paper GS paper 1, whether it is related to freedom struggle, post independence history of the country, or various political philosophies like communism, you can see socialism, capitalism, all these are basic ingredients of the PSIR syllabus. So obviously that we'll be discussing in greater detail. And if you see the effect of globalization on Indian economy, these concepts like communalism, regionalism, and secularism, they are all part of extensive discussion of the PSIR paper. So obviously this, your background in PSIR training will help you understand these topics in a better manner, the different nuances of these topics. Okay, for example, secularism is mentioned. So when I teach you Western political thought, the idea of secularism in Western political thoughts starts from Machiavelli, and we'll be discussing how Gandhian notion of secularism was different from Nehruvian notion of secularism. So Gandhi believed that religion and politics should be guided. They are intrinsically linked. And Nehru was a modernist. He believed in separation of state and religion. Religion not to be an individual affair. So when Gandhi considered religion, it was like Sarv Dharma Sambhav, equal respect for all religions. So Gandhi believed that religion is another name for morality. And politics without morality is like a death trap, Gandhi had said. So that we will be discussing extensively. What is the difference between communism and socialism? Can anybody point out? How many of you are from PSIR background? Honestly, raise your hands. Tell me. Okay, from PSIR background, political science as your graduation subject. Yes, tell me. Socialism is a broader term, I will say. Anyway, that we will be discussing extensively. And effect of globalization on Indian society. Now, globalization, what Trump is doing is deglobalization. Okay, he's engaging in protectionism. So all these impacts on India. You are aware of India-US trade deal, and how US Supreme Court struck a blow down on his tariffs, saying it is unconstitutional. So this is globalization. So this is how PSIR optional paper 1 will help you in understanding this of paper 1, and entire GS paper 2, excluding some governance and social justice issues, is subsumed in PSIR paper. Now if you look carefully at the PSIR syllabus, section B of both the papers, if I say section B of both the papers, now PSIR, if you see PSIR paper 1 and paper 2. And paper 2, all of you have the syllabus with you. The syllabus starts from page number 5, I guess. Okay. So paper 1 consists of section A, and paper 2 also consists of two sections, section A as well as section B. As you can see the syllabus, Section A consists of political theory, while section B consists of IGP, Indian government and politics. Section A consists of international politics and CGP, comparative government and politics, while section B consists of Indian foreign policy. So how your this IGP, what you study in polity, and this Indian foreign policy, what you study India and the world, we will be discussing at a much extensive level, deeper level in optional. And if you see GS paper 2 consists of these two sections, if you exclude social justice and governance sections. So your familiarity with polity and your familiarity with international relations in GS, that is a superficial part. In optional, we will be discussing in much detail. So obviously, with your training in PSIR, you can easily tackle the questions which are asked in related to polity as well as Indian foreign policy. That is why I said that the entire GS paper 2, excluding governance and social justice, is subsumed in paper PSIR optional paper. And GS paper 3 issues like land reforms, again liberalization comes. Okay, issues related to IPR, role of external and non-state actors, and security challenges. All these we will be taking care of in both paper 1 as well as paper 2 of PSIR. Non-state actors, terrorists are, for example, non-state actors. And GS paper 4, you find contribution of moral thinkers and philosophers. I mentioned Gandhi, Ambedkar, John Rawls, Plato, Aristotle. All this we discuss extensively in PSIR paper. In fact, UPSC has also asked question on John Rawls in paper 4. And if you see John Rawls, we discuss is your syllabus on page number 6. And you can clearly see that how UPSC syllabus clearly says conception of justice with special reference to Rawls' theory of justice. So what UPSC has asked in paper 4, John Rawls, we discuss extensively as a full-fledged topic in paper 1, section A of PSIR. So one advantage of selecting PSIR is that your knowledge of PSIR paper, the optional, both paper 1 and paper 2, will help you a great deal in understanding different topics of GS. And I told you interview also, essay also, that is very helpful. And this is one of the reasons, because of great convergence between PSIR and GS. That's why students prefer PSIR optional. Now we'll start with a brief discussion of what the optional is, and I'll be focusing on paper 1 in detail. Paper 1, as I already said, that it consists of section A, political theory, as well as section B, Indian government and politics. Now one question comes to the mind of the students, that how IGP is different from polity. Same issues like federalism, constitution, you are going to discuss. Now if I say a simple topic, if I take, okay, in section B, if you see, all of you come to page number 7. Okay, here section B, IGP stands for Indian government and politics. And section B, you can see that the very first topic contains perspectives on Indian national movement. Indian national movement you study in GS also. You must have read Bipin Chandra's book, India's Struggle for Independence. So how this is looked at from different ideological perspectives. And ideology is basically a lens for you to look at the reality and help us grasp the nature of the reality. That is ideology. Now, I will say one thing. All of you have, I'm sure you must have heard about Gandhi. Okay, father of nation. And Gandhi had launched non-cooperation movement. 1920, 22, for example. Non-cooperation movement 1920-22. There an incident happened in Chauri Chaura where 22 policemen were burnt alive by a mob. Gandhi suddenly withdrew the movement and entire Congress was stunned. Gandhi said, I will not allow movement to become violent. And this act of Gandhi is interpreted by rest of the privileged sections of society. Whenever masses radicalize to a certain extent, and Gandhi feared that if masses are radicalized beyond that extent, it will threaten the privileges of the propertied classes. So Gandhi used to pull the plug. So this was national, it was not a national movement. It was a movement led by leaders of the who supported the propertied classes. But Bipin Chandra, as a nationalist historian, has a different interpretation. He says no mass movement can carry indefinitely. The capacity of an ordinary people and an activist is different. As an activist, you can endure a lot of sacrifices, but ordinary people capacity to endure is less. So whenever the movement was in decline, Gandhi used to pull the movement, graceful exit, and prepare masses for the next round of struggle. Next round of struggle was civil disobedience movement. Basically, these are different interpretations. You can see one of the perspective is Dalit perspective. And Dalit perspective of Indian national movement is closely related to, can you see the name of father of Indian constitution? In the previous page, Dr. Ambedkar. So Ambedkar had famously said, if, no, you must have heard Tilak's statement, Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. Ambedkar had said, if Tilak were an untouchable, he would have said, abolition of untouchability is my birthright and I shall have it. For Dalit leaders, liberation from internal tyranny was more important than liberation from external tyranny. External tyranny means British rule. Internal tyranny means how caste system was very exploitative. And Ambedkar was clear, without social change, political change will be hollow. So this is how Ambedkar believed that Indian National Congress did not believe in empowerment of the Dalits. So different lens we used to examine the reality, that is ideology. And all the perspectives we have mentioned, we are going to discuss here political ideologies. But to understand political ideologies, generally I first start with Western political thought. So if you see your syllabus of paper 1 section A, now it consists of this political theory section. I can further bifurcate into political thought, and then we can bifurcate into concepts and ideologies. So political thought, what is political thought? Political thought is ideas of the thinkers, ancient, medieval, modern. What was their reflections on the political situation of their time? And why to study that? Because the problem which they faced in that time and their insights can help us to understand the problems which humanity still faces. The various books written by these thinkers, they are called as the classics. For example, all of you, can you refer to paper 1 section A topic number 10? And paper 1 section A topic number 10, you can see that how your syllabus mentions Western political thought as well as Indian political thought. So one of the first thinker is Plato. Why it is important to study Plato? Because Plato was worried about a role of corruption in society, and Plato believed that ruling is an art. What is an art? Skill. If I ask you simple thing, can a sportsman be made India's sports minister? Can a sportsman be made India's sports minister? And if a sportsman is made India's sports minister, will he be able to do justice to his job? Yes. Why? Because he is already a sportsman. He knows what problem sportsman faces. How we can be like China. China is a sporting superpower. And last Olympics, Tokyo, India did not get a single medal, gold medal. A country of 145 crore people not getting a single gold medalist. Is there any dearth of talent in India? No. The point is we need to nurture the talent. So how have you heard of Vaibhav Suryavanshi, for example, the teen cricket player? He scored 175 in the finals. So he has been nurtured by the IPL setup. India has several such talents. That is the job of the state, how to nurture, identify the talent and give them the best facilities so that they rise like Neeraj Chopra, the boy with the golden arm. That is what Plato said. Identify the skill of the people and give them the best facilities to hone their skill. Is corruption still an important part of our day-to-day life? Yes. If you read today's newspaper, Supreme Court is angry at the NCRT book, which talks about corruption in judiciary. Now, if you leave the sentimental aspect apart, that corruption is great at the lowest level of judiciary. Is corruption a reality? Yes. Corruption is like a termite which hollows the country. That's why Plato said, those who own political power, they shall not have control over economic power. He gave radical solution. I discussed Machiavelli. Secularism started in Machiavelli's ideas in modern political thought. Is the word secularism included in India's preamble? Yes. What is secularism? Separation of state and religion. In Machiavelli's period, church used to have a heavy influence in politics. So Machiavelli said, no, the prince shall be autonomous. And Indian Machiavelli is Kautilya, Arthashastra tradition. Kautilya also said, corruption is like having honey on the tongue and not tasting it. Is it possible? We cannot eliminate corruption. We can check corruption. He said, corruption is like a fish swimming in water. Can you identify whether fish has drunk water or not? No. So when you become bureaucrats, you will be fish swimming in government money. It's like that. So what insights Kautilya, in fact, when you read Arthashastra, Kautilya talked about the 40 ways of embezzlement, corruption of funds. And government has to keep a strong check on corruption. So why to study these thinkers? It is important because by studying their books, the classics, we get an idea of how to solve the problems of which we face today. Ambedkar talked about caste system. Is caste system is a reality in India? Caste-based discrimination? Yes. Last year there was a case in Jaipur where a boy was hit by headmaster because he dared to drink water from a pot kept for the headmaster. Your birth determines which caste you belong to. And what Ambedkar said, that an individual should be judged on the basis of his worth, not on the basis of birth, merit which you have. So Ambedkar was inspired by French Revolution's idea of liberty, equality and fraternity. Have they been included in India's constitution? Yes. Preamble says liberty, equality and fraternity. And all these concepts mentioned in preamble, we are to discuss in these concepts, political theory. So equality, if I say, what is equality? A feminist will say, there is no equality in society. Society is patriarchal. How? I will give you one data. How many MPs are there in Lok Sabha? 543. What is the percentage of women MPs in current Lok Sabha? Less than 15%. So 50% of India's population represented by less than 15% of MPs? How many judges of Supreme Court out of 34 are women? 2. The country has a women president, Draupadi Murmu. But see the number of women MPs in Modi cabinet, for that matter, any state government's cabinet, very less. The government has passed 106 Constitutional Amendment Act, giving 33% reservation to women. But one women MP famously pointed out, you are saying that this laddu is yours, but you can have it later, not now. The women will be given reservation after delimitation. So is there equality? No. Gender discrimination is there. We talked about democracy. What is democracy? Ambedkar said, democracy is one man, one value in all walks of life, social, political, or economic. What we have in India is political democracy. Have you heard of UAF? Universal Adult Franchise. All of you, I guess, are eligible for voting. So, one person, one vote, one value. But point is that, is there equality in social sphere? Is there equality in economic sphere? No. If I compare myself, that I am a voter, the rickshawala down the lane, he is also a voter, Mukesh Ambani is also a voter. Value of our vote will be one person, one vote, one value. But actually, who will have more influence? Obviously, Mukesh Ambani. He goes to White House and meets Trump. So what Ambedkar said, without socio-economic democracy, political democracy is meaningless. So what are the various dimensions of democracy? What are the various theories of democracy that we are going to discuss in detail? When I talk about the concept of power, so what is power? Are all of you here? If I ask you, why do you want to join civil services? Honest, dil se reply. 99% will say for power. What is power? If I become IAS officer, I will be in charge of the district. My orders will be command for the others. And I will be the king of the district. Power. This is power over domination. One of the famous definition of power given by a political scientist Robert Dahl says, if A has power over B, A can force B to do those things which B would not have otherwise done. Recall your every incident in your life, your parents tell you, don't dare to go out and play in the rain. You feel like going and playing in the rain, but parents tell you, if you go, beware. So parents' threat influence your decision. 9/11, US terror attack on US 2001. When 9/11 happened, US called Pakistan's ambassador and told him, either you are with me or you are against me. If you are with me, fine. If you are not with me, I'll bomb you to Stone Age. And Pakistan did a complete U-turn, withdraw support to Taliban and helped US in dismissing Taliban. So how did US force Pakistan to change their behavior? Yes. Trump, yesterday he said, I brought peace between Pakistan and India. And Pakistan Prime Minister says, I saved 35 million lives. How I did that? By threat of tariff. That I'm going to impose 200% tariff on you if you do not stop fighting with each other, Operation Sindoor. And they obliged. And Trump was nominated by Pakistan for Nobel Peace Prize. And he also got the Nobel Peace Prize medal. He kept it also. So he said, I've stopped 8 wars since I became the president. So what Trump did, forcing other countries to stop the war. This is power. And power is having different dimensions. One of the power which thinker Gramsci said, one of the power which thinkers Gramsci said is ideological power, which we talk about as hegemony. What is hegemony? When power is exercised by consent of the governed, that is hegemony. Britishers ruled India, and then how do they justify their rule? By giving the idea of white man's burden. White man's burden. Have you heard of Rudyard Kipling, the person who wrote Jungle Book? Yes. He said, white man's burden. It's a burden on our shoulder that we are advanced races, Indians are backward. We are ruling to help Indians achieve development at par with us, to make them civilized, civilizing mission. And many Indians accepted that. So how did the British rule? Controlling Indian mind. That is generating consent. That's what Gramsci talked about as hegemony, very subtle form of power, which is not obvious. And even today, US hegemony is there. Have you heard of the term Coca-Colaization of culture? McDonaldization of culture, cultural globalization. We are adopting Western practices. See our dress, Western. If I come in traditional Indian dress, dhoti kurta, you will say, sir is Pendu. He is a rustic person. The language I am speaking, English, foreign language, hegemony of Britishers. So this is subtle form of power. All this we are going to discuss in paper 1, section A. And when I talk about feminism as an ideology, so feminism says women are disadvantaged because of their sex, and this disadvantage should be removed. All of you present in the class, if I say why girls have long hair, why boys have short hair, have you ever wondered? Who told you to keep short hair or long hair? Your cultural upbringing, social conditioning. If I come with nail polish in my fingers, you will laugh at me definitely, because you believe that nail polish is the job of the girl, not of a boy. This is social conditioning. And how male values are considered as superior, female values are considered as inferior. When a boy cries, you say, why are you crying like a girl? Be strong, be macho. And Trump also said, I'm a macho man. So being brave is a feature only of man. This is stereotype. So how boys and girls are nurtured in different manner, stereotype. I'm sure in your generation at least, how many of you know cooking? So I can see many boys also raising their hands. So your parents must have taught you, or out of necessity is the mother of invention. So once you're out of the home, obviously you learn cooking. But generally girls are said that you will be married into some other house. So what your mother-in-law will say, mother has not taught you anything. This is feminism, social conditioning, and it has different dimensions. So in the family, for example, radical feminists will say this inequality emerges in the family, and then we can see that different levels of society. G7 summit took place. G7, group of 7 developed countries. There's only one woman there as the head of the government, Giorgia Meloni, Italy's prime minister, and rest 6 were males. Yeah, see, India has 28 states. How many women chief ministers were having? Delhi and West Bengal, that's it. So why out of 31 states and union territories, there are only 2 chief ministers? Are women less capable? No. There is a systematic disadvantage. And that is what feminism aims to dismantle. So all these issues we are going to discuss when I teach you ideologies of feminism. So this is about paper 1, section A, where we are going to discuss paper 1, section A, political thought as well as concepts and ideologies. Now in section B, IGP, Indian government and politics. Here it becomes whatever knowledge we have gained in paper 1 section A, all will be using in paper 1 section B. And in paper 1 section B, you can see next page, the syllabus. Now, if you see these 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, if I say, now role of caste, religion and ethnicity in Indian politics. One of the famous political scientists said, when Indian cast their vote, they vote their caste. Caste is the big determinant in voting, and you are going to see election is going to take place in West Bengal, Tamil Nadu. Who is Vice President of India? Who is Vice President of India? CP Radhakrishnan. Which state does he belongs to? Tamil Nadu. Which caste he belongs to? OBC. So why he was promoted as from a governor of Maharashtra, he was promoted as governor as the Vice President of India. Many said BJP had Tamil Nadu in mind. And just 2 days back, the first Indian Governor General of India, what was his name? C. Rajagopalachari, fondly called as Rajaji. His statue replaced statue of the designer of New Delhi, Lutyens. President inaugurated his statue. Why? Because Rajaji is a respected figure from Tamil Nadu. So this is BJP's effort, outreach to Tamil Nadu. Ethnicity determining that. If you see ethnicity in Indian politics, if I say, all of you are aware about Manipur situation. Manipur has been in conflict for the past 2.5 years. Recently, a new chief minister was there in Manipur. He is from Meitei community, but he got 2 deputy chief ministers, one from Kuki community, other from Naga community. Why was there? Because Indian government wanted to present a picture of unity, that 3 representatives at the highest level from 3 major communities. This was to send a message of unity. Ethnicity is a major factor in Indian politics. And if you are following Tamil Nadu elections, Tamil Nadu government says central government wants to impose Hindi as a part of NEP, National Education Policy. I'm sure you must have graduated under the NEP. So NEP does not talk about imposition of Hindi. It talks about 3 language formula. So how language has been a major issue in Tamil Nadu in 1960s, which forced Indian government to go for 3 language formula: English, Hindi and a regional language. Whichever state of India you get appointed as an All India Service Officer, you are expected to learn the local language. In Odisha, learn Odia because all communication will be in Odia language. In Tamil Nadu, Tamil. That is role of ethnicity. If I talk about social movements, have you heard of Chipko movement? Chipko movement was a part of the environmentalist movement. It launched environmentalism in India. And Chipko movement was a pioneer movement where women hugged the trees to save them. Why they hugged the trees? Because their livelihood was related to the, strongly connected to the existence of forest. And are you aware of the Great Nicobar project? Recently, NGT, National Green Tribunal, it gave a go ahead for the Great Nicobar project. Why this project is in controversy? Because it will lead to destruction of millions of trees and pristine forest. It will also impact the tribals of that forest. But NGT said no, security strategy considerations, they are more important. So how, if you see today's Indian Express, it clearly says in 4 out of 5 cases, NGT has given priority to development over environment. In today's newspaper, it talks about. So Chipko movement started environmentalism in India, environmental movement in India. Ordinary women. There's a scholar called Ramchandra Guha. He says Chipko movement was nothing. Chipko movement was empty stomach environmentalism. Empty stomach environmentalism. What is empty stomach? Who is empty stomach? None of us, because we are middle class. Who goes empty stomach? Poor. So Chipko movement was an example of empty stomach environmentalism. Ordinary people, poor people, dependent on environment, dependent on forest. They have been pioneers of environmentalism in India. If you see West and East India, West has been, environmental movement has been led by scientists. They want to protect the forest, no human interference, no go areas. In India, it has been led by poor people whose sustenance is closely linked to environment. So whichever state you belong to, tribals for example, anybody from Odisha, from Jharkhand, from Chhattisgarh. So in your state, for example, tribals get sustenance from the forest, fruits, fertilizers, medicine, fiber, wood, all they derive from the forest. If the trees are cut, where will they go? Nowhere. That is empty stomach environmentalism. Federalism, you see constitutional provisions, integrationist tendencies and regional aspirations. Are you aware of a person called Sonam Wangchuk, on whom he is an innovator, on whom this 3 Idiots movie was based? There is a movement going in Ladakh. Ladakh is demanding 6th schedule status. Ladakh is demanding 6th schedule status. Why Ladakh is demanding 6th schedule? Because it will give the local people a say in how development takes place in their areas. And Ladakh is a very strategic territory. So this is how regional aspirations are there. If you see, there's a demand for Vidarbha state in Maharashtra. There's a demand for Bundelkhand in Uttar Pradesh. There's a demand of Mithilanchal in Bihar. All these are regional aspirations. And why regional aspirations? Because of lack of development. Chhattisgarh was created in 2000. Telangana was created in 2013. 14. So why Telangana was created? Despite Andhra and Telangana sharing the same language. Andhra Pradesh was the first linguistic state to be created in 1953, because people of Telangana had the perception of biasness, lack of development. And Jharkhand was also carved out from Bihar because of tribal identity. All these are examples of regional aspirations. So what are the factors behind that? Which theories help us understand these regional aspirations? One of the theories says relative deprivation theory. What is a relative deprivation? If I give you one case, in your case. Now when we conduct the class test, students come and say, sir, I have written the same answer. You have given me 4 marks out of 10. This fellow has got 5 marks out of 10. So why you have given him extra marks? So this is relative deprivation. I have got 4, he has got 5. So compared to him, I am deprived. This is relative deprivation. So relative deprivation, people of Jharkhand, they said, we want a separate state carved out from Bihar. Uttarakhand was carved out from Uttar Pradesh. They said hilly areas face different problem, which people of government seated in Lucknow cannot fully address. And this relative deprivation is also fuels ethnic tension. You know what started in Manipur? ST status was given to Metis. ST status was given only to cookies. So one cake will be shared by more people. So will the size of the cake be less? Yes, that is relative deprivation. That's what we will be discussing. What are the various factors of these? And if you see the syllabus, it also talks about making of the constitution. For example, making of the constitution, the different social, political and different social and political perspective. Now, you know the difference between fundamental rights and DPSP? Main difference is fundamental rights are justiciable. That if your fundamental rights are violated, you can knock the door of Supreme Court and get it enforced. Fundamental rights are mandatory and directive principles are non-justiciable. And Article 40 of India's Constitution is a part of directive principle. What is Article 40? It talks about Panchayati Raj institutions. Why Article 40 was kept in non-justiciable part of the Constitution? Article 40 is what is called as Gandhian principles. If you see Nehru and Gandhi's view, Gandhi wanted revival of the villages, village panchayats. Nehru was dead against. Nehru, instead of Gandhi talked about decentralized state. Nehru wanted centralized state. Ambedkar wanted centralized state. Why centralized state? I want such a state which is strong enough to carry out social reforms. I want such a state which is strong enough to protect the minorities. And ultimately, which path India adopted? Centralized state. So Gandhi was a traditionalist. Nehru was a modernist. That is a different perspective. And the same perspective you can see. Topic number 8. Topic number 8 talks about planning and economic development. And it says Nehruvian and Gandhian perspective on development. Gandhi believed in minimization of wants. Gandhi believed in decentralized economy, decentralized polity. Gandhi believed in revival of the village handicraft, charkha, khadi and others. Gandhi believed that in a populous country like India, I do not want mass production. I want production by masses. If you bring in machines, they will cause unemployment. Nehru had a different idea. Nehru believed that we have to achieve faster growth, and that can be done only by heavy industrialization. When Nehru inaugurated Bhakra Nangal Dam, he said these dams are temples of modern India. And Nehru went for resource intensive development. Gandhi wanted minimization of wants. Have you heard of 3 R's in your ecology and environment? Reduce, recycle, reuse. These are nothing but what Gandhi wanted. Minimization of wants. Gandhi famously said, Earth has everything to satisfy people's need. But even 9 Earths will be insufficient to satisfy people's greed. Reduce your needs. And Gandhi wanted revival of the village panchayats. Gandhi believed in giving Swaraj, Gram Swaraj. Nehru had the other option, centralized state. So centralized state, did Nehru carried out reform of Hindu personal laws? Yes. So this is how different perspectives are there. All the theoretical perspectives we had to discuss. So whatever we have discussed in paper 1 section A, that will be useful in analyzing section B. And how polity, GS polity and IGP answer in options are different. You have to write an academically rich optional answer using theoretical perspective, using views of the scholars. If you are going to write GS answer in IGP section or in Indian foreign policy section, you will not get marks. This is where most students, they are overconfident and they do not get marks. There is a gap between marks which they expect and marks which they get. Every optional has certain requirements, certain keywords, certain perspectives. You have to use that while giving your answers. So all this we will be discussing in detail, and that is paper 1 section A, and I have discussed section A in brief and section B in brief. And one more thing, The last point I would like to say is that we conduct classes in an interactive manner. It's not a monologue that a teacher comes like a Pandit ji and he reads Sanskrit shlokas and he goes away. No, that is a dialogue, interactive classes. And before you come to the class, like we say in GS also, you're expected to read the handout before coming to the class. And then we're also discussing PYQs, etc. Iqbal sir is going to focus more on that. So I will invite Iqbal sir. Just wait for 1 minute. And then in the last, we will take up Q&A session. Okay. Iqbal sir will be discussing more on section A and section B of paper 2. Okay. Online students, please switch on your cameras. Just wait for a minute, he will come.
So students, you just had a discussion with Sushant sir on paper 1. He had an elaborate discussion with you as far as the PSIR paper 1 syllabus is concerned. So let's now have a discussion, students, on the syllabus of PSIR paper 2. I will briefly discuss with you this PSIR paper 2. I'll take all your lectures as far as PSIR paper 2 is concerned. And Sushant sir have already discussed with you that both the papers, PSIR paper 1 and paper 2, both are divided into 2 sections each, section A and section B. Similarly, PSIR paper 2 also has 2 sections, section A and section B. Section A of PSIR paper 2 is more theoretical. It's about the IR concepts and theories. And section B of PSIR paper 2 is regarding India's relationship with the world, that is India's foreign policy as far as the various countries of the world is concerned. I'm sure you're already very well aware that PSIR paper 1 is more of, Sushant sir just had a discussion with you. PSIR paper 1 is all about domestic politics, about political science, whereas PSIR paper 2 is about international relations. What is the title of the optional paper? Political Science and International Relations, PSIR. So therefore, basically, there are 2 papers here. PSIR paper 1 is your political science paper, and PSIR paper 2 is your international relations paper. The entire IR syllabus, all topics related to international relations, is part of your PSIR paper 2, which is further divided into 2 sections. Let's discuss the 2 sections. The first section, section A, these are all chapters of section A of the PSIR paper 2 related to international relations and international politics. You all have got a printout of that also with all of you. So let's discuss these chapters one by one. I'll help you understand the requirement of all these chapters, that what do we basically are going to discuss in these chapters. So as far as section A is concerned, students, section A of PSIR paper 2 is more of theoretical. It's about the theories of international relations, key concepts of international relations. We have to develop a very good grasp over all of this. So the first 3 chapters here, these first 3 chapters of the PSIR paper 2, they are related to this particular topic called comparative politics. Comparative politics. These 3 chapters are related to this subject called comparative politics. Now, what is comparative politics, students? As the name does suggest, comparative politics is a study of doing a comparative study between the political systems of different countries. Every country have a different political system. For example, what is India's political system? We have a democratic political system. We have a parliamentary form of a democracy. Then you have another, let's compare it with another country. You have US. Now US also has its own political system. US also have a democratic political system, but do you think they have a parliamentary form of democracy? No, USA has presidential form of democracy. That is therefore, even though both these countries are democracies, but their political system differ from each other. America's political system is very different from our political system. They strictly follow the doctrine of separation of powers, where there's complete separation of powers between the three branches of the government, which is the executive, legislature, and judiciary. In fact, in America, the president executive is not even member of the legislature, whereas in our case, you're all very well aware, our executive, our council of ministers are member of the legislature, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Whereas in America, there's complete separation. In America, judiciary also has a different rules as compared to India's judiciary. What is the retirement age of the judges of the Supreme Court of India? 65 years. Okay, fine. What is the retirement age of the judges of the Supreme Court of America? And Supreme Court judges of America are in the news also these days, because they've given a judgment which Trump has not liked. Have you followed that in the newspapers? The Supreme Court judges of America have trashed Trump's tariff dreams. His tariffs have been declared illegal by the judges of the Supreme Court of America. Donald Trump is very upset with them. So what are their retirement age? The Supreme Court judges of America, when would they retire? No retirement age. They're judges till death. So that is a rule. That's why the Supreme Court of America does enjoy a lot of independence, lot of autonomy. The judges do not even have a retirement age. Therefore, the judges of the Supreme Court of America, they enjoy a lot of independence and autonomy, and they're known for giving very strong decisions, strong judgments to strengthen the democratic political system of America. So America, and again, India is a multi-party system, whereas America only has two political parties. It's a bi-party system. There are only two parties in America, Democrats and Republicans. And America is also a federal country. They have 50 states. Have you seen the map of America? The flag of America. In the flag of America, you must have seen those stars. So on the flag, there are 50 stars. Those 50 stars represent the 50 states of US. It's a federal country. Now in America, there are only two political parties, Republicans and Democrats. The Republican Party, they have a color called red color. The Democrat Party has a color called blue color. So all those states of America in which Republicans are more popular, in which Republicans, they get more votes, those are known as red states of America. And in all those states of America in which Democrat Party is more popular and they get more votes, they are called blue states of America. If a Democrat president gets elected, a president from the Democrat Party gets elected, you would see the Democrat president would always wear a blue color tie. Like Barack Obama was a Democrat, Joe Biden was a Democrat. If a Republican president gets elected, the Republican president in the public life would always wear a red color tie. Donald Trump is a Republican. George W. Bush was a Republican. So this is politics of America. This politics of America is very different from India's politics. Even though we are democratic countries, both of us, but their political system, they have a bi-party system. We have a multi-party system. We have coalition governments also. We have a very different political system. So in order to have better understanding, so what is your opinion, students? If we want to have a better understanding of India-US relations, do you think we should also know about the differences between India's political system and America's political system? We should know how politics operates in America, how Donald Trump operates in America. That is where this topic is important, comparative politics. If we want to understand India's relationship with multiple countries, if we want to understand foreign policy relations between countries, then we must also know what is the differences and similarities between the political systems of different countries. Like we just do the comparative study of India-US political system. Similarly, there are so many more other countries. There may be countries which are monarchies. There are countries which are theocracies, like Iran is a theocracy. You know what is a theocracy? Where a spiritual leader, religious leader is appointed as the head of the state. Like in Iran, who is the spiritual leader? Ayatollah Khamenei. Then you also have military dictatorships. You also have countries where you can say they are pseudo democracies. You know what is pseudo democracy? Pseudo democracy is a country which claims to be democratic, but in real life it is not democratic. Best example, our neighbor Pakistan. Our neighbor Pakistan claims to be a democratic country, but do you think in Pakistan the decision making power is in the hands of democratically elected leaders? No, in Pakistan, the real power is in the hands of the military, the army general. Right now, the field marshal Asim Munir. So it is a pseudo democracy. which claims to be democratic, but in reality, they do not follow democratic principles. In fact, many countries in the world are pseudo-democracies. So there are different political systems which you have in different countries. So they need to do a comparative study of that. That comparative study is known as comparative politics. And there are so many different methods to do comparative politics, so many different theories to do comparative politics. There's a method called political economy approach, where we study the economic systems, political sociology approach, where we study the society of different countries. For example, you compare India with some other country. India's what kind of a social system we have in India? India is a very diverse country. India is a very diverse society. We are a heterogeneous society. Whereas you compare India's system with many European countries, most of the European countries are homogeneous societies. And that is why you see a difference, a lot of difference. For example, students, what is your viewpoint? Maintaining secularism is easy in a homogeneous society or a heterogeneous society? Homogeneous, it is far more easier. Now, majority of the European countries are homogeneous societies. You go to any European country, they speak the same language, same culture, almost the same religion. Their maintaining secularism is far easier as compared to a country like India, which is a heterogeneous society. Linguistic diversity is there, cultural diversity is there, religious diversity is there. That is the reason why Indian model of secularism is different from the Western model of secularism. So societal factors, social and political factors, we need to compare that as well. So different methods are there to compare political systems of different countries. That's what we do in this first chapter, the comparative politics. Then students, we also need to compare state in comparative politics. That means that how the concept of state, how the concept of sovereign state has evolved in different parts of the world, in different regions of the world, how the concept of state has evolved. There is a capitalist state. We have also seen state formation happening differently in countries which followed a socialist ideology or a communist ideology. And formation of state in those countries which followed capitalist ideology is different. So how the state formation in capitalist societies is different from socialist societies. Like you may be very well aware, there used to be a country called Soviet Union. And Soviet Union followed ideology of a communism. And the communist state was very different from the capitalist state. That comparison also we need to do. We also need to do this comparison that how there are certain, you may have heard about, have you heard about a group called G7? What is G7? G7 is the group of rich, industrialized, capitalist countries of the world. These are the developed countries of the world, the richest countries of the world. Now, the kind of sovereign state you see in these rich countries is very different from the kind of sovereign state which you see in developing societies, developing countries, post-colonial states. What is a post-colonial state? A post-colonial state is a state which has come out of colonization, which has seen years of colonial exploitation. So the kind of state you see in post-colonial states is very different from the kind of state which you see in G7 countries. This comparison also we need to do. That's what we do in the second chapter. In the third chapter, we do a comparison of politics of representation and participation. So what do you mean by politics of representation, participation? Basically, democratic politics. And in democratic politics, which are those entities which actually play a very important role? Do you think in a democratic political system, political parties play a very important role? Pressure groups play a very important role. Social movements play a very important role. So here we do a comparative study of difference between the political parties in Western countries and developing countries. Like we just did a comparison that America has a bi-party system, we have a multi-party system. But the nature of political parties is also very different. Political parties in Western countries, they are more accountable. They have internal democracy also. They have financial transparency also, which you do not see in the political parties in post-colonial states, developing countries. In developing countries, political parties are dynasty-based. You understand what is dynasty-based? Individual-centric, family-centric. Whereas in Western countries, more developed countries, you see political parties have internal democracy, financial accountability, financial transparency. So we need to do a comparative study of political parties of different countries, pressure groups of different countries, social movements in different countries, in advanced developed countries and developing countries. So these three chapters, like I told you, the first three chapters of the syllabus is related to comparative politics. That is doing a comparative study of the political systems of different countries, especially the developed world and the developing world. Developed world is also known as global north. And the developing world is also known as global south. Why? Because Majority of the developed countries of the world, majority of the rich countries of the world, they belong to the northern hemisphere. Of course, there would be exceptions also, but I'm saying majority. Similarly, majority of the poor countries of the world are in the southern hemisphere. Of course, there are exceptions also. That is why the rich world, the advanced economies, they are known as global north, whereas the poor countries, they are known as global south. So that comparative study we do here. Then students, we also have this chapter in the syllabus, very important chapter, that is globalization. In fact, in multiple chapters it is mentioned, this topic, that is globalization. This is also very important chapter of our syllabus, that we today live in a globalized world. We today live in a complex interdependence world, a cobweb world, where economies all over the world are interdependent because of globalization. So what is globalization? Different theories of globalization. How globalization has affected the world. What has been the impact of globalization on developed countries, rich countries, and what has been the impact of globalization on developing countries, post-colonial states. This is also part of our syllabus. Very important chapter that is also there. Then the most important chapter of your PSIR paper 2, foundation of your PSIR paper 2. In fact, when we start our optional course, the first lecture which I would have, I would start with this chapter, that is approaches to study international relations. This is the most important chapter of your entire PSIR paper 2. When we say approaches to study IR, what do you mean by this? This means you can also call it as theories to study IR. Theories to study IR, IR theories. Because in order to study international politics, in order to study international relations, certain theoretical perspectives have been given by IR experts and IR scholars. There are different ways to look at IR. There are different ways to interpret IR. There are different ways to understand and analyze IR. So different approaches, different theories have been suggested to understand international relations. This becomes the foundation of your PSIR paper 2. This is the most important chapter of PSIR paper 2. There are different theories. For example, you have idealism, you have realism, you have Marxism, you have the functionalist approach, systems theory, postmodernism, constructivism. Many such theories are there which have been suggested to understand international relations. All these theories are basically different approaches to understand IR. For example, idealism says that peace is possible. Idealism says that states can cooperate with each other, can work together. Whereas realism says that in international politics, it's all about power struggle. All states are engaged in power struggle and inevitably conflicts will take place and sovereign states cannot cooperate with each other. Marxists have a different viewpoint. They say that basically what is happening in IR, developed countries, rich countries, they're exploiting poor nations, developing nations. So every theory has given a different lens to understand IR. So this is the most important chapter, theories of IR. We'll have a very elaborate discussion on all different theories of IR. Why it is important? Because this is what makes your PSIR answers different from GS answers. It is very important for all of you to understand that your optional answers have to be very different from your GS answers. So Shan sir just had a discussion with you that there's a lot of overlapping of syllabus between optional and GS. But that does not mean that you start writing GS-like answers in your optional paper. You have IR in GS also. But that does not mean that whatever you study in GS, that is sufficient to attempt your IR questions in the optional paper. In the GS paper, the requirement is just factual analysis. In the GS paper, for example, if you get a question in the GS paper, analyze or examine India-Pakistan relations. So in that, you will do a factual analysis. That means you will list all those issues where India and Pakistan have problems, have disputes, have conflicts. You'll talk about the border dispute, Kashmir dispute, Siachen dispute, Sar Creek dispute, proxy war, Pakistan sponsoring terrorism against India, and what is India's counter-terrorism strategy, Operation Sindoor, what we have done to counter Pakistan sponsoring terrorism against us. So you do a factual analysis of that in your GS paper. But if the same question has been asked in the optional paper, the expectation is different. Now you have to evaluate the question, you have to answer the question, you have to do theoretical analysis, conceptual analysis you have to do. A more analytical answer is expected out of you, not just a factual answer. So when it is the same question is asked in the optional paper, you will have to use IR theories and IR concepts to answer the question. If the same question has been asked in the optional paper, you will write realist perspective of India-Pakistan relations. idealist perspective of India-Pakistan relations, Marxist perspective of India-Pakistan relations, and you would also quote the views of experts and scholars. That is how your PSIR answer becomes different from your GS answer. In the PSIR optional paper, you're expected to write more analytical answers, academically rich answers. And how would you make your answer academically rich? By using IR theories, by using key concepts of IR. That is why this chapter is so important. This chapter is not important just because you would get questions on IR theories. Of course, there are several questions on IR theories every year. But in each and every question of your PSIR paper 2, you will try and use IR theories. Whenever you get a question in PSIR paper 2, you'll try and use IR theories. If you get a question on India-US relationship, there also we will use IR theories. We'll use what is the liberal perspective on India-US relations, realist perspective, functionalist perspective. There are so many different theories. So that is why these theories, IR theories, they make your foundation of your PSIR paper 2. Whoever has good grasp over these theories is able to write excellent optional answers and scores very good marks in PSIR paper 2. This will distinguish your optional answers and your GS answers. The next chapter is the second most important chapter, that is key concepts of international relations. That means the most important concepts which are used in the study of IR. When we study IR, what are the most important concepts? The concept of national interest, concept of national security, Rashtra Suraksha, the concept of power, balance of power, nuclear deterrence, the role of transnational actors, non-state actors, the concept of collective security, and again globalization. These are the most important key concepts in study of IR. When we study international relations, these concepts are used to understand international relations. So each and every concept is like one lecture. There would be one lecture on national interest, one lecture on national security. How do you define national security? What is your understanding of national security? Rashtra Suraksha, because there are different perspectives of that also. Somebody may say national security means securing India's borders, securing India's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Military security, territorial security is the definition of national security. Some other person may say that national security should also include human security. You understand what is human security? That the basic needs of individuals, basic needs of citizens should also be fulfilled. What is the point of having secure borders when your citizens do not have food to eat? What is the point of having secure borders when your citizens are suffering from poverty, unemployment, hunger, starvation, and law and order problems, caste-based discrimination? So you need to give importance to human security also, not just only your border security. So there are so many different dimensions of security. So similarly, there are so many different dimensions of how do you define power or how do you define balance of power. These are main important concepts of IR. These IR concepts also you're not going to use in your GS answers. In GS, we rarely use them, but these important concepts we use in the optional answers. This also makes your optional paper different from your GS IR syllabus. Then the next chapter, students, is the changing international political order. Now, students, you must understand one thing, and you all are very well aware, international politics, IR, is not a static discipline. It is a dynamic discipline. It keeps on changing, new developments keep on happening. Therefore, international politics is always evolving. It is always under evolution. The world order is always evolving. Therefore, you have this chapter, changing international political order. That means how over the years we have seen evolution of international politics. For example, students, after the Second World War, we saw rise of superpowers, and there was a period called Cold War period, which was there between US and Soviet Union. So a detailed discussion of what Cold War was, how Cold War was fought. Different proxy wars were fought during the Cold War, if you are aware. Vietnam War, Korean crisis, Afghan crisis, all that we have to discuss. Cuban Missile Crisis. Then also during the Cold War, there were certain countries like India which followed a policy of a non-alignment, non-aligned movement. That also we have to discuss in detail. And then Cold War ended because Soviet Union got disintegrated. Cold War ended. USA emerged as the only superpower of the world. And after the end of Cold War, we today question relevance of policies like non-alignment. And now non-alignment, as far as India is concerned, non-alignment has been replaced by multi-alignment. So how international politics over the years, Cold War period, post-Cold War period, now we are heading towards new Cold War. A new Cold War is emerging, new power tussle is emerging between US and China. So that is what we study here. We study the evolution of international politics. Several questions are asked from this. Then the next chapter is evolution of the international economic system. International economic system, international economy also over the years have evolved. We have seen, as far as the international economic system is concerned, we have seen evolution of important global economic governance institutions. You may have heard about these institutions, students: IMF, International Monetary Fund, World Bank, WTO, World Trade Organization. These are important international economic governance institutions which have emerged over the years. We need to do a detailed study of all of them. How these institutions have helped in American hegemony. Do you understand what is hegemony? Hegemony means dominance, and USA dominates the world. How USA has used these institutions to dominate the world. These institutions are, students, also known as Bretton Woods institutions. Why are they known as Bretton Woods institutions? During the Second World War, all major countries of the world and their leaders, they all had gathered in a conference in US. They had done that conference to create these institutions, to sign a treaty to create these institutions. That conference had happened in this resort town called Bretton Woods. The name of the town was Bretton Woods. Bretton Woods in New Hampshire in US. That is where the agreement was signed to create IMF and World Bank. That is why IMF and World Bank are also known as Bretton Woods institutions. So how Bretton Woods institutions have emerged in the world? What is India's role in them? What is India's role in WTO, World Trade Organization? And how these institutions, all these institutions are based on capitalist values. They are based on the system of capitalism, liberalism, and how the socialism has been trying to oppose that. Socialist countries have been trying to oppose this. This is also part of our syllabus. International evolution of international economic system. That is also what we discuss in this chapter. And then, of course, students, a detailed study of United Nations. United Nations is a very important international organization. So how UN have emerged, what has been the purpose of UN, objective of UN, performance of UN, problems of UN, why UN urgently need changes, it needs reforms. India wants to become a permanent member of the UN Security Council. Why India deserves that? What is India's role in UN? What is India's contribution in UN? Is the UN losing its relevance because United Nations is failing to prevent wars like the Russia-Ukraine war, Israel-Hamas war? So, a detailed discussion of United Nations, very important topic. Several questions are asked on this topic also. Then also in the syllabus, we have regional organizations also. There's a difference between international organizations and regional organizations. An international organization is where members of that organization, they belong to all different regions of the world, different continents of the world. Whereas a regional organization is an organization where members belong to only one particular region of the world. For example, European countries have formed a regional organization called European Union. African countries have formed a regional organization called African Union. Southeast Asian countries have formed a regional organization called ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. South Asian countries have formed a regional organization called SAARC, South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation. So there are multiple regional organizations also in our syllabus. We have to study all these regional organizations also. And also contemporary global concerns. That means in today's contemporary politics, what are the major issues in world politics, major concerns? For example, there have been a concern regarding democracy. How there is a democratic crisis we can see in so many different countries unfolding. Recently, we saw a democratic crisis in Bangladesh. Do you remember how Sheikh Hasina in Bangladesh was forced to resign? We've seen Gen Z protest in Nepal. So democracy, issues regarding democracy in the world we need to discuss. Human rights, very important. Recently, we have seen human rights violations happening in Gaza, where 67,000 Palestinians have been killed. A genocide-like situation happened. Human rights is an important global issue. That is also here in the syllabus. Then another very important global issue, students, is environment. The environmental degradation, global warming, mitigating global warming and doing, climate mitigation, climate adaptation. This is also a very important topic. And it is important for international relations. Why? Because students, environmental degradation is a problem, global warming is a problem where states cannot resolve this problem alone. They have to come together and they have to cooperate with each other. A joint approach, a collaborative approach, a multilateral approach is required to deal with environmental issues. You cannot do it alone. For example, if we stop polluting today, if India stops polluting today and China continues to pollute, then do you think we'll be able to deal with the problem of global warming? Do you think the polluted air of China will seek visa before entering Indian airspace? No, the atmosphere is common for everybody. Atmosphere is global common. You can draw borders on the land, but you can't draw borders on the atmosphere. Whoever may pollute in the world, everybody will suffer. Because of global warming, sea level is rising up. So when sea level is rising up, do you think sea level will rise up only in those countries and only in those countries which pollute a lot? Sea level will rise up for everybody. So therefore, a global coordinated effort is required to preserve the environment. So there are so many theoretical perspectives on that also we have to discuss. Then gender justice is very important issue in international politics. That is why we will also study feminist theory of IR, feminist perspective in international relations. In the wars which happen in the world, who do you think are the worst sufferers? Who are the worst sufferers in wars? Women and children. They are the worst sufferers in war. And women issues are ignored in IR. Women issues are not given importance in study of international politics. Women issues are not given importance in policy making in IR. The feminists, they say IR is a gender blind discipline. It doesn't recognize the problems which women are facing. Women do not get adequate representation in international politics. How many secretary generals of UN have been women? Zero. Not even one secretary general of UN has been a woman candidate, which again reflects the patriarchal bias which you see in international politics also. So gender justice is also a very important issue. Then of course, a global problem, terrorism. Terrorism also today we see transnational terrorist networks have emerged. Such terrorist organizations have emerged which have spread networks in multiple countries. So how a global approach, what global approach is required to deal with terrorism? Also nuclear proliferation. What do you mean by the term proliferation, students? Proliferation means a spread. Nuclear proliferation means spread of nuclear weapons. More and more countries are today acquiring nuclear weapons. Today, 9 countries in the world have nuclear weapons. Iran is also on the verge of developing nuclear weapons. If more and more countries, they develop nuclear weapons, do you think it is good for world peace? The number of weapons, nuclear weapons, if they multiply in the world will become more peaceful or more dangerous? More dangerous. Therefore, nuclear proliferation is a very important topic. How to prevent that? There are multiple treaties which have been signed in the world for this purpose. For example, NPT, CTBT, FMCT, so many such treaties are there. What is India's position on nuclear proliferation? Because India is also a nuclear weapon state. India has not accepted NPT and CTBT. Why we have not accepted NPT and CTBT? India's position on nuclear proliferation and nuclear disarmament, that is also here what we will discuss. So these are all the contemporary global concerns, important global issues, which also we discuss in this chapter. So you can see the whole section A is more of theoretical. In the whole section A, you don't have anything about Indian foreign policy. You have topics regarding global issues, IR theories, IR concepts. That's what we do in section A. Then we move on to section B. Now, section B is all about India and the world. That means India's relationship with the world. India's foreign policy relationship with the world, with several countries of the world. That is what we do in section B. The first chapter is on Indian foreign policy, determinants of foreign policy. Determinants means factors which are responsible or which determine India's foreign policy. Do you think when we develop our policy makers, when they develop India's foreign policy or formulate India's foreign policy, do you think factors like geography play a role, culture play a role, history play a role? There are multiple such factors which play a role in determining Indian foreign policy. That is what we study in this chapter, determinants of foreign policy. For example, a landlocked country may have a different foreign policy, but a country with a long coastline may have a different foreign policy. A country which is in the vicinity of powerful nations may have a different foreign policy. So what are your resources? What is your geography? What is your culture? What is your history? What is your military strength? Whether you have political stability or not, what kind of a political system you have, all these factors are used to determine India's foreign policy. And that's what we do detailed study here. Then also institutions of policy making. That means which institutions in India are responsible for foreign policy making. For example, Ministry of External Affairs is involved, PMO is involved, Prime Minister's Office, NSA is involved. You know what is NSA? National Security Advisor, who right now is a Mr. Ajit Doval. What is the role of NSA in foreign policy making? What is the role of parliament in foreign policy making? What is the role of media in foreign policy making? Universities and think tanks, what role they play in foreign policy making? There's a body called National Security Council in India. What role they play in foreign policy making? There's so many institutions which are there in India to develop India's foreign policy. And how India's foreign policy over the years have evolved. You can see continuity and change in the policy. How Nehruvian policy was different from the present foreign policy of India. This entire discussion we do in this first chapter. The second chapter is India's contribution to non-alignment, because the hallmark of the Nehruvian foreign policy was the policy of non-alignment. What has been India's position on that? Whether non-alignment is relevant for India today or not, that is also we discuss. And also India's relationship with South Asia. South Asia, our South Asian neighbors, what kind of a relationship we have with all our South Asian neighbors, which include Afghanistan, Pakistan, Maldives, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, relationship with these countries. Also, in many of these countries, we have problems. We have water sharing problems. We have refugee crises. We have border disputes. All of that we have to discuss. Also, what has been India's role in SAARC, South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation. Then also, what is India's relationship with Southeast Asia? What policy we follow? We are right now following a policy called Act East policy to develop better relations with Southeast Asia. The same Act East policy, Narasimha Rao had launched a policy called Look East policy, which now has been renamed as a Act East policy. So our Southeast Asia relationship, our South Asia relationship, where Prime Minister Modi has launched a policy called Neighborhood First policy. So that is also, that's what we study here, India's relationship with South Asia and Southeast Asia. Also, students, India is seen as the voice of the global South. India is a champion of the global South. India has been always defending and always trying to promote and protect the interests of the global South in the world. Global South includes the poor and the developing countries of the world. Whatever concerns they have, whatever issues they have, India has always supported them. So that is also one chapter in the syllabus, India's role in the global South. You may be very well aware, India has been hosting, the present government has been hosting the Voice of the Global South Summits. We have been regularly having the Voice of the Global South Summit in India. And in fact, recently you may be aware, in the year 2023, we did host the G20 Summit. And when we hosted G20 Summit, we did make sure that under India's presidency, India was the president of G20 in 2023. African Union was made a member of G20. African Union, which is a group of 54 African countries, they were made a member of G20 under India's presidency, which again reflects how India supports the global South, because all these African countries are part of global South. So that is also a detailed discussion we must do. Then India's relationship with the most powerful countries of the world. India-US relationship, EU relation. Recently, we signed a trade deal with the EU. You may be aware, the mother of all deals, India-EU FTA. Recently, we also announced an interim trade agreement with the US also. Then also India-Japan, India-China, India-Russia. These are also part of our syllabus. Then also, already I have told you, Section A, Section B topics are interrelated also. India's role in UN, India's contribution in UN, why India should become a permanent member of the UN Security Council, India's position on UN reforms, that is what we discuss here, and India being a nuclear weapon state. India is a nuclear weapon state, so what is India's position on nuclear proliferation, nuclear disarmament? What is India's nuclear doctrine? I hope you know that India's nuclear doctrine is based on a principle called NFU, no first use principle. What is this NFU principle? Does it require a change or not? Is it sufficient to have enjoy nuclear deterrence against countries like China and Pakistan? Is our nuclear doctrine sufficient to protect our interests? This whole discussion we have in this particular chapter, where so many experts have written several books and articles on this, which we're supposed to discuss in our classes. Then also India's relationship with West Asia. India-West Asia relationship. You understand what is West Asia? All these Arab countries, Persian Gulf countries, Iran also. So what is India, Israel as well? Israel is also part of West Asia. You may be aware, Prime Minister Modi is right now visiting Israel. So India-West Asia relationship. What is India's position on the Israel-Hamas war? That is also in the syllabus. So these are all the chapters of the PSIR paper 2 syllabus which we are supposed to cover. That's what we cover in PSIR paper 2. I would also now, students, briefly like to tell you, now that we've discussed the syllabus, these are topics we study in PSIR paper 2. I'll briefly like to discuss with you the main features of the course which we have, the optional course which we have, what strategy and what methodology we follow during the course. That is also something which you must understand. This is also given to you in the handout which you have, the special features of the optional classroom program. Now you have to understand one thing, students. Today, you are all very well aware, you are the Gen Z, you are the new generation, and I'm sure you are all very well aware, today we are living in the world of artificial intelligence, AI technology. So in a world of AI technology, you all need to understand that what is the importance of classroom teaching. What is the importance of attending classrooms and interacting with teachers, interacting with your mentors? How can that help you qualify the exam? It's very important to structure the course accordingly, because a lot of you may already have access to a lot of study material. Because of AI technology, chat GPT, you do not have dearth of content today. You go put a command on chat GPT, you can get a lot of content and notes and material on a lot of topics. But students, the UPSC is also smart. The examiner is also smart. Examiner is not interested in your rote learning skills. You understand what is rote learning skills? That you get some notes and you ratify that notes and you think that can help you qualify the exam. That's not going to happen. The examiner here is interested in testing your conceptual clarity and your theoretical understanding of topics. And theoretical understanding and conceptual clarity is something which AI cannot teach you, something which apps cannot teach you. This is for which you have to come to the classroom. Especially many of you students may not be having a humanities background. Many of you must be from sciences background. So it is very important that you have to come to the classroom and you must have a mentor and a teacher and a guide who would help you develop that conceptual clarity, philosophical understanding, theoretical understanding, crystal clear conceptual clarity of topics and issues. Because UPSC, we will discuss the questions in our classes, you would yourself realize they ask you in the PSIR paper quotation-based questions. They give you a quotation and then they tell you comment on the quotation. Give your views on the quotation. That means they do not ask a question, they leave it open-ended. They want to test your conceptual clarity. That means what is your viewpoint and your understanding of a particular philosophy, a particular concept. That is where if you do not have that conceptual clarity and theoretical understanding, you cannot score good marks. Rote learning will not help you score good marks. That is why this is the requirement which you need to undergo and fulfill. That is why with the years of experience, the way we've designed the course, we provide a one-stop solution to our students. One-stop solution, that means if you spend 6 months with us, after that, nothing else would be required with respect to, strategizing for the exam and preparing for the exam. The whole focus of all the classrooms is a conceptual clarity and theoretical understanding. All the classrooms, we try and make them as interactive as possible. And we'll try and help you develop conceptual understanding, theoretical understanding of topics. Because we know that you may get notes from many places, but problem students you all face is that you do not have that grasp over the concepts and theories and philosophers. Like Prashant sir must have discussed with you many philosophers which you studied in paper 1, Plato, Aristotle, Ambedkar, Gandhi, Machiavelli, Hannah Arendt, what is their thought? What is their thought? How their thought is relevant in today's era? How is IR theories relevant in today's era? How to connect theories with the real-time examples, with current developments. That is the exercise where we focus a lot in the classroom. The whole attention is, the whole priority is to help our students develop conceptual understanding, theoretical understanding, a strong philosophical foundation in the subject, which will help them excel in the exam and give them comparative advantage over the others. Therefore, students, our classes is not about mere dictation of notes. We do not believe in that philosophy. Your time is very precious. अगर आपने यहाँ पे आके बैठ के मैंने डिक्टेट करना है, आपने लिखना है, तो क्या ही फायदा क्लासरूम का? There is no point doing that. That is wastage of time. So we do not focus on dictation of notes. We focus on lucid explanation of topics, and we give you exam-ready, well-researched, concise study material in each and every class. So when you walk into the classroom, for example, if it is a class discussion on the topic of national security. So as you walk into the classroom, you will all get a study material, a handout on national security, prepared by myself, prepared from various resources, well-researched material, exam-centric, which fulfills the requirement of the examination. You may have a lot of books out there, but they do not fulfill the requirement of the exam. What's the requirement of the exam? How many words you have to write in your answers? 150 words, 200 words, 250 words. You need concise material, exam-centric focus. So well-researched, concise material for each and every topic of the syllabus will be given to you in the classroom. Handouts constantly will give you handouts and class material. And in the class, our focus would be on discussing that material, having an elaborate discussion on that material, that study material which we have given to you. So entire 2.5 lecture would be about discussing, helping you understand the topic, helping you developing the conceptual understanding and theoretical understanding of the topic, and study material will be given to you in the form of typed handouts, so that we do not waste time on dictating notes. And you are sitting here, dictating notes is very easy job, by the way, for a teacher. All you have to do is just sit on a chair and dictate notes, and you all keep on writing. It's the easiest job to do. Somebody like me would really like it, because I'm so obese. I would not like to run around in the class and explain topics. Kursi pe baitho aaram se, kitab pakado, dictate karo, aap likho. But that doesn't help students. That doesn't help you. That is archaic method of studying things. So we don't believe in that. So we believe in lucid explanation in classes, helping you develop conceptual understanding, and study material, exam-ready study material is provided for you for all the topics as far as the classes is concerned. Then students, there's one more thing which you need to understand. When you prepare for the optional paper, memorizing the content, understanding the topics, having proper notes for it, that is only half the job. The other half of the job is answer writing skills, because the exam has been so scientifically designed. In 3 hours, you have to attempt 19 questions, which would be of 3 categories: 10 markers, 15 markers, and 20 markers. 28 questions you get. You have a choice. Out of 28, you have to attempt 19 questions in 3 hours. And therefore, you have to develop very, very, very good answer writing skills, so that you are able to reproduce everything in the exam, whatever you have studied, in a concise manner as per the requirement of the question. So very good, excellent answer writing skills are required if you want to qualify this in this exam. Therefore, students, our each and every classroom, it ends with PYQ discussion. Whenever we study a topic in the class, once the topic is finished, then after finishing the topic, we will discuss all the previous year questions which have been asked on that particular topic, so that you feel comfortable with the topic, that this is the topic I have studied, these questions I will get, and that is how I am going to attempt those questions. And then the answer writing program is part of the course. It is integrated in the course. We'll study topics, study all PYQs, and then every weekend you will have a test. A weekly test will be conducted every weekend for all the topics which we have studied during the class. And that test would be test of PYQs only, previous year questions, where you will have to every weekend attempt 2, 3, 4 questions at least, and we will give you evaluated feedback, scientifically evaluated, and model answers for all those questions. And then every fortnight, after 2 weeks, after 3 weeks, there will be a longer test, a sectional test, a 100-mark test, a 200-mark test that will happen after a gap of every 15 to 20 days. So similar, therefore, throughout the course, we will hold at least 25 to 30 weekly and sectional tests for you. Answer writing workshops will be conducted. Model answers will be given to you. So answer writing program is integrated in the course, which is very important exercise which you need to do to qualify this exam. After the whole course ends, then we will conduct FLTs also with you. FLT means a full length test. So that is also a very important part of our course, which integrate in the course to help you prepare for this examination. Also, students, there is a lot of interlinkage which is there in between paper 1 and paper 2. So classes are also designed in such a manner that you're able to spot onto those interlinkages. You're able to identify those interlinkages so that you can reproduce that in the exam also. At times, students, they fail to understand that there's no need to put this syllabus into watertight compartments. That paper 1 is different, paper 2 is different. No, paper 1 and paper 2 is interlinked. And those interlinkages of the concepts and theories and philosophers, you must reproduce in your answers. That gives you a competitive edge over the others. An interdisciplinary approach you have to adopt while writing good answers. That also will help you inculcate in our course. Then also me and Sushant sir would also act as your personal mentors. Whatever doubts you have regarding PSIR, you can get personal guidance with us also. We have a Telegram group for the whole batch where you can even get in touch with us, or anytime you would want to on Telegram, and we're always there to address your doubts. So these are, students, all the important features of the course. And of course, you will have lectures, 2.5-hour lectures, 7 days a week. On the weekend, you would have a test where we'll have a shorter class. Why, students? Because we really value your time. You're all preparing for civil services, and you all must be aware that you're paying a heavy cost for it. Now, a lot of you may say that cost is that I have to stay in Delhi, I have to pay fee for the course. It's very difficult to stay out of home for 1 year or 1.5 years and prepare for the examination, and you may see that as a cost. That is not the cost, students. The heaviest cost which all of you are paying, which I don't know if you realize or not, is opportunity cost. You are paying a very heavy opportunity cost because you are preparing for civil services. What do you mean by opportunity cost, students? What opportunity cost you are paying? Are you aware about it? Kya hota opportunity cost? Anybody here can help us understand? Students, you have put a pause button on your career. You put a pause button on your career because you want to prepare for civil services. There may be many other lucrative career opportunities which you have given up. You have given up because you want to prepare for civil services. These are best years of your life, the brightest years of your life, the most productive years of your life. There are so many alternative career opportunities which you have all put on hold because you want to prepare for civil services. Your batchmates, your college mates, your university mates, somebody must be doing post-graduation, somebody must have got a job. They are making progress in their individual careers. You are not making progress. You have put a pause button on your career because you want to prepare for civil services. So a very heavy opportunity cost you are paying. And we understand that. Therefore, we value your time. That is why our promise is to finish the entire syllabus and course within 6 months, 24 weeks. That is what we adhere to every year. It is not a course which will run on for 1 year and would for eternity and would never end. That is wastage of your time. There has to be exam specific approach, and you should also get sufficient time for self-study, self-revision also. Then only you can qualify this exam. If your course is going on up till April or March, then what time you would get for prelims preparation? Therefore, the promise is to finish it in 24 weeks. And we are able to do that every time with exception of couple of weeks exceeding if there is more PYQ discussion, something like that, not more than that. So that's all. Within 6 months, 6.5 months, your course would be over. That is our promise, because we value your time. And that is how you can strategize. This April batch is the best time to join. By the time you arrive at October, November, you're already finished with your optional syllabus, and then you can focus on your prelims preparation. You're already mains ready, because answer writing would also be done in the course itself. So that is also a very important feature which we pay attention here. And other things I have already, and that's why we have 7 days a week classes. Until unless me and Sushant are none, if we fall sick or something, if we have medical emergency, then only we would cancel a class, because we have to finish the syllabus in a time-bound manner. And we also expect equal cooperation from you also. We also expect that you should all have a very high attendance in your weekly tests and your sectional tests. Then only the whole exercise makes sense. If you also may do the adequate amount of hard work, then only you will benefit from it. Our experience says that this answer writing program is part of the course. Those students who continuously participate in this, we see tremendous amount of improvement in their answer writing skills in a 6-month period. And by the time the course finishes, they are already exam ready, and they are ready to write mains answers. So, but from that, we will do everything possible which we can do for that. But your cooperation would also be required in developing answer writing skills. So these are all the features which are there as far as the optional course is concerned. So now, students, I would like to open up the floor for Q&A session. If you have any doubts and queries regarding the optional course, please go ahead and feel free to ask. I would like to clarify all sort of doubts regarding PSIR. Any doubts, students, you have? Sushant. Any doubts you have, students? Any queries you have? Yes, go ahead. Yes, online students, any doubts and queries you have regarding this course and discussion? Anything you'd like to ask? Before Alvin is asking what should we do as far as the basics is concerned before joining the optional classes. So we would recommend, Alvin, you read at least NCRTs before the optional classes would start, because in the optional classes you will get all the study material, everything will cover in the class. Before the optional class starts, if you can finish your NCRTs, that would really help you, grasp topics in the class. There's an NCRT for political theory, +1, +2 NCRT for political theory. There's an NCRT for Indian Constitution. There's an NCRT for IR. These 3 NCRTs, if you can read 11th, 12th NCRTs, that will help you develop a good base for, the PSIR classes. Anything else, students? Any other doubts and queries you have?
Yes, often students.
Any questions? Yes, go ahead. Yes, go ahead, please.
What would be the word of advice for people who are doing PSIR as an optional? And given the fact that PSIR is a commonly taken subject, so the amount of competition will be much more higher compared, I'm guessing. So what would be the word of advice for people who are actually considering out of all the circuits to take PSIR?
See, point is that why are you including only PSIR? This is a competitive examination, and there is a competition at every stage. Okay. Now, irrespective of whichever optional you are choosing, okay, what UPSC ultimately tests is your conceptual clarity, first thing, and ability to write as per demand of the question. These 2 things are going to decide your selection. So apply it in any optional, you will succeed. Same is true for GS also. And go through the questions of prelims, mains, and interview transcripts also. What they want is conceptual clarity and your opinion. That's it.
A lot of people may be taking up PSIR optional, but that doesn't mean that a lot of people are well prepared for the optional. Like I told you, that a lot of people may take it because it's a popular choice, but then they make those mistakes which I was mentioning in the class. Majority of students, they end up writing GS answers in the PSIR optional, because the polity you study in GS also, IR you study in GS also. So they believe that the GS content is sufficient for optional, and they end up writing GS-like answers, and they get very bad marks. So that's where, we come in for you, and that's where we tell you that how optional answers has to be very different from your GS answers. The right approach, the right material, the right content, exam-specific approach, that is where scientific preparation is required. And very few people would do that. And when they do not do that, then they are not your competition. The ones who are not doing it is not your competition. There may be 50,000 people taking up PSIR optional, only 5,000 are doing scientific preparation. So only they are in the competition. So that is what you need to understand. And that's how our students have been succeeding and doing so well because of this approach. So you need not worry about the competition. You know, we all, not just PSIR, how many people apply for the civil services exam? Do you know about that? How many people fill up the form?
1
More
million.
than 1 million students. More than 1 million students apply for the civil service examination. They fill up the form. 50% absent ratio is there. In the prelims paper, you would see for 40 to 50% is absenteeism. Only at the end, only 5-6 lakh people may appear. Now that 5-6 lakh people also may appear, do you think they're all preparing very well? Only at one time, I would say only 40 to 50,000 students are seriously preparing. The rest of the students may be appearing in the exam, but they are only crowd. भीड़ है सिर्फ, वो कंपटीशन नहीं है. किसी टाइम पे भी कंपटीशन सिर्फ 40-50 हजार बच्चों में ही है जो कि सीरियसली तैयारी कर रहे हैं. बाकी उन्हें तो किसी के मामा पापा ने भेज दिया एग्जाम देने, कोई पीयर प्रेशर में जा रहा है, कोई ऐसे सड़े हुए मन से जा रहा है, कोई बिना तैयारी के जा रहा है, कोई सोच रहा है चल देख के देखता हूं तुक्का लग जाए. बहुत सारे हैं ऐसे. So 90% of the people are not preparing. 90% of people in Rajendra Nagar are wasting time. They are here burning the wasting money of the parents. They join the course, they don't attend classes. सुबह 7:30 का बैच ज्वाइन कर लिया, उठा ही नहीं जाता है, आया ही नहीं जाता क्लास में. 11 बजे वाला भी नहीं आया जा रहा है, 11 बजे से पहले उठ ही नहीं पा रहे हैं. हाँ ठीक है, रिकॉर्डेड क्लास देख लेंगे. प्रोक्रेस्टिनेशन, ये जो रिकॉर्डेड क्लासेस का कल्चर है, इसने तो बहुत ही नुकसान कर दिया आप लोगों का. बिकॉज दिस इज फैसिलिटेटिंग योर प्रोक्रेस्टिनेशन. यू गेट दिस थिंग इन योर माइंड दैट आई वुड सी रिकॉर्डेड. चलो अभी घूमने चले जाते हैं, दोस्तों के साथ चले जाते हैं. रिकॉर्डेड कब देखोगे? कभी नहीं देख पाओगे. क्लासरूम में जो पढ़ाई होगी, यहां पे आके जो पढ़ लिया वही पढ़ाई है बेटा. ये रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर, रिकॉर्डेड ये आप सब मांगते हो तो हम दे देते हैं आपको, बट इट डजंट हेल्प यू. फॉर ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट्स आल्सो हु वांट टू जॉइन द कोर्स ऑनलाइन, अगर लाइव ऑनलाइन अटेंड करोगे देन इट विल हेल्प यू. अगर बाद में आपने रिकॉर्डेड वीडियो देखना है 2x स्पीड 3x स्पीड बेड पे लेट के, तो वो तो फिर आप अपने साथ भी फॉर्मेलिटी कर रहे हो, कोई फायदा नहीं है उसका. सो वो बहुत ही थोड़े से बच्चे हैं. यहाँ पे भी बच्चे आ जाएंगे, फीस भर देंगे, दे वुड नॉट अटेंड द क्लासेस रेगुलरली, दे वुड नेवर कम एंड गिव द वीकली टेस्ट. That means they are not serious. They may be your competitors, but they're not serious. So at any one point, there are very few bunch of students, only 40 to 50,000 students in the entire country who are seriously preparing. और उन्हीं में से competition है. So आप ये मत देखो कि इतने लाखों बच्चे हैं, बहुत बड़ा competition है. तैयारी तो थोड़े से ही कर रहे हैं, बाकी तो सारा बस numbers ही हैं. So you need to be very, very sincere. If you are sincere for your preparation, अगर आप serious हो preparation को लेके, तो आपको सक्सेस मिलेगा. देयर इज नो डाउट अबाउट दैट. यू हैव टू बी सिंसियर. आप खुद अपने आप से पूछो, क्या मैं सही कर रहा हूं? क्या मैं क्लासेस मिस कर रहा हूं? मैं रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर्स पे डिपेंड कर रहा हूं? आई एम नॉट इंटरेक्टिंग विद माय टीचर्स, आई एम नॉट राइटिंग रेगुलर टेस्ट. क्या ये सही अप्रोच है? एम आई ऑन द राइट डायरेक्शन? ये प्रोक्रेस्टिनेट करके मुझे कोई फायदा होगा? खुद से पूछो अपने आप से. यू वुड गेट द आंसर्स. ओके.
Vagmode is asking, I'm appearing for exam in 2028. When should I complete my optional? I think this is the right time. You know, there is a saying that early bird catches worm. So this is the right time, and next year you can revise and have multiple answer writing practices as well, so that by the end of December 2027 you are thorough with your main section, and then prepare for prelims accordingly. Yes.
So what are the negatives of taking PSIR as an option in this journey of preparation?
See, honestly speaking, negative is you not putting a lot of effort in that. And keep in mind that students have the impression that it's a big syllabus. Okay. So point is that, as Iqbal sir pointed out, that there are many interlinkages in both paper 1 and paper 2. If you use that interlinkage, the syllabus reduces by more than 30%. Okay. And if you prepare for it thoroughly, as I already pointed out, it will also give you an edge in GS also. Okay. The point is that one of the negativity is obviously you are conflating it with GS polity and GSIR. That's where, you know, student, I mentioned it earlier also, that that's where the gap is, what they expect and what they actually get. So as I pointed out, that every optional has its own requirement. You have to fulfill that requirement, and that if you're not doing that, it will be counterproductive for any option, you can say.
Your study of optional paper will help you score good marks in GS. I'll give you a cricket example. Do you all watch cricket matches? So somebody who plays test match cricket is an international player. For that person, probably playing the Ranji Trophy, the domestic cricket championship, is easy. Okay. Similarly, if you are a PSR optional student, for you to attend IR and polity question, GS is easy. But if you are just a Ranji player and you think that you can, on the basis of your talent of the Ranji Trophy, you can play the international cricket, that's not going to happen. So if you think that your GS knowledge will help you write optional answers, that's not going to happen. But your optional knowledge will easily help you write GS answers. That is the linkage students are not able to understand. You get an edge, an advantage in the GS paper because you have done those topics in your optional. Your GS paper 2 will be entirely covered in your PSIR optional. So it's actually not, you're not preparing for 500 marks, you're preparing for 750 marks. Your entire GS paper 2 will be covered in your PSIR optional. But if you think that your GS knowledge is sufficient to write optional answers, that's not correct. But your optional knowledge will be more than sufficient to write GS answers. That's what we need to understand. And beta negative कोई नहीं होता किसी भी optional में. कोई भी optional successful or failure होगा आपकी वजह से. All optionals are designed for students to get succeed only, to get selected only. आप सही approach follow कर रहे हो नहीं कर रहे हो, कोई भी optional paper है. You are interested or not, okay? There's a possibility that you may pick up an optional paper because you are motivated by somebody, on somebody's suggestion. You don't know your interest. That's very important. If you are not interested in a particular optional paper, and then you take up that optional, that will become a nightmare for you. So you need to know your choice also, whether you are interested in studying these topics. तभी तो आज हमने पेपर 1 पेपर 2 सिलेबस आपसे डिस्कस किया ताकि आपको पता तो हो कि PSIR ऑप्शनल पेपर में पढ़ते क्या हैं. तो अगर तो आपको ये टॉपिक्स इंटरेस्ट कर रहे हैं, if you have developing interest in these topics जो सर ने डिस्कस किए, मैंने डिस्कस किए, that means this is the right optional choice for you. But if you're not interested in studying these topics, अगर आपको ये सब अच्छा नहीं लगता है, तो then you should attend the other optional workshops also and look at the syllabus of other optional papers also. If you have more interest in topics of other optional papers, go for those. Your interest is very important. हम तो तभी मदद कर पाएंगे ना if you are interested in the optional course. If you do not have the interest, then we cannot help you. But yes, that you can be rest assured, PSIR has the highest success rate. Highest success rate released by UPSC has officially released a report in which the highest success rate is the PSIR optional. And the reason for that is that PSIR optional may have a lengthy syllabus, but the kind of hard work you put into PSIR, that gives you an edge in your GS and essay and ethics. So therefore, a PSIR student is bound to score good marks in GS, ethics, and essay also. That is why it becomes a very good combination. Overall combination, it gives you a lot of return, provided you are interested in these topics which I discussed with you today. अगर आपको ये politics और IR ये सब समझ ही नहीं आता, अच्छा ही नहीं लगता है, ये क्या ट्रम्प रोज बोलता रहता है, कुछ आपको ये सब नहीं अच्छा लगता है, आपको मोदी जी जो दुनिया भर में घूमते हैं ये अच्छा नहीं लगता है, आप उसको फॉलो करना नहीं अच्छा लगता है, आपको IR इवेंट्स फॉलो करना नहीं अच्छा लगता है, then you will not enjoy this optional. But if you really get excited with international relations, foreign policy, what is happening in the world, what crazy stuff Trump is doing, what India is doing in Europe, what India is doing in Israel, why wars are being fought, if these things really excite you, Indian politics excites you, then the optional is where PSIR is very good for you. So that is the question which you need to answer yourself.
Okay. Rohit is asking how to decide whether an answer is GS specific or optional specific. I told you every optional has its own requirement. As far as PSIR is concerned, you have to use theoretical perspective as well as views of the scholars with a proper analysis. That is what differentiates a GS answer from an optional answer. For example, federalism. Same question can be asked in GS as well as in optional as well. So writing about federalism in optional, you have to discuss the views of the various scholars like Pratap Bhanu Mehta, Balbir Arora, etc., as well as from theoretical perspectives. And that is how it will differentiate. You have to write an academically rich answer. And that's what we will be teaching you while optional. Answer writing is an integral part of our course. And keep in mind, your selection ultimately depends on not only how much you know, but what you are writing in 180 minutes as per demand of the question. So that art of answer writing, that is an integral part of this course. And Iqbal sir has already given the detail of how we proceed in answer writing. So that is what, to develop your skill of answer writing, it has been included in the course structure as well.
No, you just cover NCRT's Kanika. That's more than sufficient before the course, because in fact this handout which we've given you a reading list of books also. But those reading list of books is you would refer to that reading list if you're preparing on your own. Somebody would like to prepare on his or her own also, then you can pick up that reading list. If you're coming to us and you're with us for 6 months, then we will provide you study material which is prepared from all these several very good books, which is exam specific. Because at times, for example, you may have one book only on one thinker, but on that particular thinker you have to write only 200 words in the exam. So you need a very good summary of all of that. That is what we will provide you in the classes. So you need not read any more books, just NCRTs for basics, and all the other materials, required materials, we will give you in the classes.
Nishu, as I pointed out earlier also, it's best time if you join early, if you're attempting for 2028. Okay.
The sooner you finish your classes, the better for your preparation, because the more time you get for self-study. So it doesn't, and of course, yes, if you have any such apprehensions, we would always be there for you till the time you do not succeed. And therefore, whatever materials, because a lot of IR materials are constantly updated because of new developments. So all the updated materials and handouts and notes and everything, we will continue to provide you even after your course ends. You will all have an access to the portal. We'll keep on uploading material for you, and you can come and meet us also, and we'll stay with you till the time you do not succeed. So it's not that this is a 6-month program. After 6 months, our relationship ends. No, it's not like that. Like I told you, after the course also, we'll keep on conducting FLTs for you. And we'll keep on providing updated notes and material also to you. So you need not worry about that. So sooner you finish your classes would be better for you. Any other doubts, students, you have?
Yes, we're having.
What kind of rules we should follow? Like from now, there is 1 month gap for the
Scroll down.
So what should be an approach from now?
So approach Iqbal sir already pointed out that you should first read the NCRTs. 3 NCRTs are the 11th and 12th, as well as familiarize yourself with PYQs as well as the syllabus. That's it.
And develop habit of reading the newspaper. Okay, that is one thing very important to qualify this exam. I would not keep you under dark. If you are not a regular reader of the newspaper, that's like a big handicap in civil services preparation. It's like तुम अपनी टांग काट के फेंक रहे हो कि मैं एक ही टांग से एग्जाम दूंगा. अगर तुम अखबार नहीं पढ़ना चाहते, अगर तुमने कसम खा ली मुझे अखबार नहीं पढ़ना है, इस तरह की गलत कसम अगर तुमने खा रखी है, तो तुम एक ही टांग से एग्जाम दे रहे हो. Because it's a competitive exam. College exam थोड़ी है. College exam में क्या होता है? 33% marks लाओ, degree लाओ, घर जाओ. ये तो competitive exam है. You have to compete with people. So your competitors, जो मैंने आपको बोला ना, 40 to 50,000 students who are seriously preparing, they are regularly every day reading the newspaper. And if you are not reading, will you be able to compete with them? No. So उसका habit develop कर लो. मैं क्यों बोल रहा हूँ habit develop करना? जिस दिन आप उठाओगे ना, when you start reading the newspaper first time, you will hate it. Already a lot of you must be hating it. So, but you don't have to give up. You keep on reading it every day till the time you start liking it. उसमें time लगता है. Newspaper reading की habit डालने में 15-20 दिन 1 महीना लगता है. तो आपके पास जो 1 महीना है, you also utilize to develop a habit to read the newspaper. अगर वो आपका दिनचर्या का डेली रूटीन का पार्ट बन जाए, nothing like it. आपको जीएस में हेल्प करेगा, ऑप्शनल में हेल्प करेगा, एसए में हेल्प करेगा, इंटरव्यू में हेल्प करेगा. थ्रू आउट योर civil services journey, this will become such a big confidence booster for you if you regularly read the newspaper. Not that you won't get the newspaper notes, we will provide everything, but if you're reading it yourself also, you're anyways ahead of your competitors. So develop that habit also. That's very important.
How to use current affairs without making answers look like GS answers. So that's what we'll be teaching you in optional class. Okay. The optional batch starts from 22nd of April. Okay. The rest details will be available on the website itself.
It's Wagmore, it's offline, online, it all depends. Offline is any times better. Online also you can benefit if you attend live classes. If you're not attending live classes, then you may not be able to benefit from the online course. You must attend live classes if you're an online student. Okay, fine, clear everybody? So thank you so much, students. Thank you for the interaction. 11 a.m. 22nd of April. Okay. So thank you, students.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, online students. I hope you've all benefited from the discussion. Thank you, everybody. If you have any doubts, you can come and interact with us. Thank you so much. Yes, it would happen, but later.